Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
It is wrong to think that the brakes on the car are needed solely for a full and sharp stop. In the process of driving, the motorist periodically helps himself with the brake pedal, brakes before turns, preparing to perform this or that maneuver. Therefore, the brake unit also affects the overall comfort, controllability, and safety of the driver, his passengers, and other road users. It is the direct responsibility of every car owner to keep the brakes in optimum working condition. Over time, brake discs can wear out and lose their initial characteristics. It is not necessary to replace them immediately, as the parts are quite expensive. Sometimes the problem can be solved by grinding. When it is necessary to grind discs, it is not difficult to find out from the operating manual what the resource of this or that consumable on the car, but from the specified mileage should be subtracted about 20 to 30%, adjusted for the Russian climate and more difficult operating conditions. On average, the resource of brake discs on passenger cars is about 100,000 kilometers, after which it is performed grinding or replacement in the most difficult situations. It is not difficult to guess why a car needs to sharpen brake discs. This contributes to the restoration of high braking efficiency. In operation, the elements can wear unevenly, change their characteristics under the influence of climate, sharp temperature changes, etc. That is, a certain curvature is observed. There are several signs that allow you to determine the fact of the need for rethreading. Severe heating of the disc after a short drive. This can be detected by simply touching the element with your hand. But do it with extreme care, as the high temperature can cause burns. It is easier to diagnose overheating by hitting a puddle or pouring water on the disc immediately after stopping. If there is steam, the temperature is uncharacteristically high. Whistling or grinding when braking. Squeezing the gas pedal, drivers often notice characteristic unpleasant sounds. From the cabin, it is difficult to determine the source of noise. You can ask for help from a friend or go to a car service for diagnosis. Under normal conditions, the braking distance changes upwards. If under the same conditions the braking distance is longer than before, the discs should be checked and sharpened if possible. During braking, the pedal sticks hard. The pedal has to be pushed in deeper to stop. Vibrations occur during braking and the steering wheel is pulled to the left or right side. Deviation to one side or the other depends on problems with a particular disc. Visual signs of wear and defects. Faced with such signs, it is worth thinking about visiting a car service center for Protachka or performing this procedure with your own hands. Advantages and disadvantages. Not every motorist decides to go for a reaming, preferring to simply replace somewhat worn and deformed brake discs. Read also, what is the minimum thickness of the disc you can drive a car with? Everyone decides for himself whether it is worthwhile to carry out the turning. It is important to realize that it is not always possible to do this. To the advantages of Protachka include such points: saving on the replacement of brake discs, increasing the service life of the brake set. As for the disadvantages, the following should be considered. This is not an endless procedure, which is carried out to a certain degree of wear of the disc. Not everyone is able to qualitatively grind the part with their own hands. And in the case of making a mistake, and in general, may be followed by a failure of the brakes at another attempt to stop the car while driving. Therefore, mostly motorists grind discs for reasons of economy. Not everyone is ready to pay 10 to 40,000 rubles for new discs, preferring to give 1 to 4,000 for grinding. With self-processing, the price is formed from the purchase of necessary consumables. In some cases, it is free of charge, when you should not grind discs. In the case of brake discs, there is a concept of minimum thickness. It is strongly recommended not to exceed these values. Depending on the type of discs used, the minimum thickness may vary considerably. Ventilated and non-ventilated discs are installed on cars. For a moment, it is necessary to imagine that the motorist has cut more than provided by the disc configuration and recommendations for its operation. In such a situation, the following changes are expected. The brittleness of the metal increases. The disc heats up faster during braking. The disc will warp when subjected to sudden temperature changes. There is a possibility of splitting, breaking, cracking. As a result, when braking at speed, the wheel can sharply block. It is not difficult to imagine the possible consequences. Never grind a disc to a value exceeding the minimum thickness. This is very dangerous. You should not rely entirely on craftsmen either. Some of them know that the disc is no longer subject to sharpening. It has used up its resource. But in order to make money, he agrees to take up the work without notifying the car owner about the possible risks. Methods of grinding. Some motorists are interested in grinding brake discs with their own hands, although the work is difficult and very delicate. If the current condition of the workpiece allows this procedure, a suitable machining method should be selected. Depending on the conditions of turning and the tools used, the following methods can be distinguished: with removal on a lathe, with removal with improvised tools, without removal with special equipment. It is not always profitable to purchase a machine for grinding worn brake discs if you plan a one-time action for processing with your own hands. Here it is already better to trust specialists. Separately, it is worth considering all the available options for grinding. Retouching without removal to begin with. Let's see how the protraction of worn brake discs is performed without removal and what, in such a case, you can do with your own hands. Read also how a motorist correctly tension the generator belt of the car. Professional workshops use special machine tool equipment and diagnostic stands. With their help, the correct geometry of the brake disc and other elements is restored. Currently in demand is a special fixture designed for grinding old brake discs directly on the car. That is, it is not necessary to remove them. The procedure looks like this. The car is placed on an elevator, and the tire is removed. The brake caliper is unscrewed, which allows the disc itself to be freed. A special instrument is used to measure the current surface curvature. A motor rotating the disc is mounted on the studs or other area. The cutters are brought to the disc. Automatically, the cutters gradually remove the thin metal layer, restores the desired geometry of the surface. Perform such a procedure with their own hands on the car is impossible without having at their disposal a device for grinding worn brake discs. Such a service is available only in the conditions of an automobile workshop. If the use of machines does not suit you, there is an alternative method. Here's what you need to do. Remove the wheel and brake caliper from the pad. Take a grinder. Prepare abrasive wheels of different grits, using a mechanical or electronic micrometer to measure the thickness. Based on the permissible parameters, grind off a certain layer of metal. Chips and irregularities on the edges can be treated with a hand file. If the disc is on the drive wheel, simply start the motor and engage the gear. By rotating it, bring the grinder to the element and start careful machining. When working with improvised means, it is extremely important to follow safety rules, using protective clothing and goggles. Otherwise, sparks can enter the eye and skin, causing serious burns. Grinding with removal to perform brake disc machining. The brake disc is sometimes removed. This is a more complicated job because of the additional dismantling steps. However, the turning process itself is somewhat simplified. To restore the condition of the part, conventional lathes are used. The problem is that working on such a machine requires a certain amount of skill and experience. Without this, it is not recommended to undertake the turning with your own hands. But you can always ask for help from a professional turner. His services are clearly cheaper than turning on specialized equipment in the car repair shop. Manual methods of processing are much cheaper, and they can be used in garage conditions, turning brake discs with their own hands. But the quality of work is low. After that, you will have to often repeat the same procedure to maintain a relatively good condition. And the more often you sharpen the disc, the faster the metal wears and thins. This leads to the inevitable replacement of elements. When replacing one disc, you must necessarily replace the second disc on the same axle, and this is an additional cost. In conclusion, performing brake disc refining can significantly enhance your vehicle's braking performance and extend the lifespan of your brake components. It is particularly worth considering when you notice signs of uneven wear, vibrations during braking, or a decrease in stopping power. By taking the time to refine your brake discs, you not only improve safety, but also ensure a smoother driving experience. Always remember to consult with a professional if you're unsure about the process, or if your brake discs require more extensive repairs. Thank you for watching, and drive safely.